There, welcome back. Episode 4 of season 3. On this episode, we're going to be doing all the waterworks for the radiator to the engine, etc., and hopefully get onto the exhaust as well, and see what other little things that we can get onto the end of the video. Please give me a quick like and subscribe; it'd be really awesome. Let's get into it. All right, so this is what we have to install. We got the top polished radiator hose pipe here, the bottom polished one here, all the pipes to join them all up together. We got the large one here for the air filter, a couple of angled ones, and these ones in the middle here are for going to the heater. This one comes from the thermostat. Hopefully that's long enough. Normally I think I like the legs to be about 20 centimeters long, but we'll see how that goes. And a little overflow or drip pipe I think here. So let's get it all installed. Okay, so before we start getting cutting the pipes, etc., AK are still giving out these pipes for the top and bottom radiator fixings that I think are far too big. No matter how much you try and do up the clamps, these pipes will just sort of buckle, and they'll still have a tiny little way through, and the water will just leak out slowly, and it'll drive you absolutely nuts, particularly if you've got an issue with the bottom one, because to fix the bottom one means emptying all the fluid that you've just put in there, etc. And you just can't get them tight enough anyway with the Jubilee clips that AK supply. These will give up and start slipping way before you've got them tight enough. But like I said, you ain't going to get them tight enough anyway, even if you put 2, 3 on, whatever. It's still going to be a leaking spot, I believe. So, unfortunately, because I haven't got any in blue, I'm going to use this black one. Now, this black one that I've got is 35mm, and you can see straight away that it's a much lower profile there. And I've given up pretty much, unless the joint is not under pressure, or it's just maybe an air joint. I've given up on Jubilee clips. It's just not worth the problem that they cause. And we do big old Michelor, basically bolt with a nut in the end, if you like, and you can keep on doing these up far too tight actually, so do watch out. But anyway, this 35mm pipe is much better suited. It goes on there with a little bit of a squeeze, which is absolutely perfect. Got your clamp around there, happy days. So that's what you need to be doing, certainly for this top and the bottom pipes. Now this actually black colour won't actually be seen up here, and the black won't be seen down there. I might risk a blue up on this top joint just to try and keep it coloured. You know what, I'm just going to go black. It's not really going to affect any colour scheme that I've got going on. It's only a short piece of pipe, so black here as well. All right, so there's the air intake all done. All pretty happy with that. You are probably going to have to put this down at more of an angle than you think, and I might even just loosen it off and just press that down just a little bit more, only because this pipe that comes off here, that goes to the top of the rad just here, well, you don't really want that just hanging all over this washer bottle tank here. So usually I just angle it down and through that gap there. So just to give it a bit more slack, I might just angle that down. And you can see that this is just on a little bit of an angle, I guess. I did perfectly match up the positions of these tanks, but I guess just some slight differences in some welding or some bracketry means that it's just a slightly bit tighter on this side than it is that side. But that's not to notice by the time you've got some more pipes going around, and of course some of this will be slightly obscured by the bonnet. I think that looks a-okay. So I'm pretty happy with that. Got this top pipe on, happy with that as well. Got my nice smaller diameter pipes in there, so nice and tight. I'm not going to get any leaks in these. Happy with that, with the old Michelor clamps. I think on a previous build, maybe with some not such good clamps, this was maybe flopping around slightly, but this is actually pretty rigid. And previously I had put a P-clip around here and put it into there, just angled this down slightly more, just to stop it, you know, bouncing around probably. But this is all pretty nice and firm. Nothing's going to be banging into this pipe tank, so that's all good. So let's do some more pipes. All right, all looking good here. So just a point here, make sure this Jubilee clip is rotated so it doesn't keep on catching your hand when you're trying to turn this and undo this cap. Otherwise it's really annoying. So keep that nice and smooth. I'll just be putting this overflow and tidying it up with a little P-clip down on that bottom bracket just down there. Just in that kind of orientation. So that's all good. Now this pipe here, I like to have this pipe just tucked down here. This gap does suit it quite nicely, but to keep the slack there, I'm going to be putting a P-clip here. And by putting a P-clip here, not this one, just one slightly bigger, but still one that grips it, I can make it keep its shape and make it keep its shape up here by not allowing it to sort of straighten out by having that P-clip there, and then that will just go off to the top of the rad here. Now another good reason for having this P-clip, or at least a fix in here, is because later on when you're putting the loom in, I'm going to put this P-clip here that's going to hold the conduit with 2 wires going to the washer motor pump. So otherwise that's got to come all the way from the side of the car, the wheel well of the car, and otherwise it'll be flopping around. So that just helps tidy that up and keep it out of the way, straight into there, positive and negative. So yeah, so I'm going to buzz 1 5mm down there and ready for a couple of P-clips, and then fix this pipe in. Okay, so onto the lower radiator hose, and for me the supplied elbow here has only got 100mm legs and they are not long enough. We can get it to fit and attach, but it makes it deform slightly, and I don't think that's good. So if I was to put this, this is only just on enough to be able to get a clip round there, and if I was to put it up hard up against the bracket here, you can see that, let me just angle this, it's not quite in line, and I don't think it's got the required shape there. So I've ordered one with 150mm legs, and that will give us much more length there. It will be able to fit on there nicely. This will be able to hang down slightly lower, and it will miss the crossbar here underneath, and I'll be able to fix that all nicely in line, including the outlet there. So I think that's a much better way forward. I could have used a P-clip to try and hang it there, but I'm going to go for these longer elbow and use my Munson bracket here. I will have to just cut the thread down slightly, but then that hangs really nicely. The pipe will go through there, and it'll all be nice and square and supported. Now the heater hoses, I'm also going to have to wait to do. So what I like to do with these is I have something like a 135-degree angled pipe that comes out and goes straight back down again, and then my heater pipes are going to run underneath, totally out of the way of everything, and not near the really hot manifold, not near the starter and all the wiring that comes out of the footwell and goes to the starter, so nicely out of the way. So we're going to have to wait for that whilst they're on order. What I have been able to do is these pipes up here, so just use some fuel pipe for those. All looks really nice with the braided lines there. This will look a bit tidier once I've got some wiring in there, and then I've been able to just zip this into place. So that's all good. Alright, so 15 minutes later we're back on the bottom bracket because my delivery has just arrived. Now you can see this is nice and horizontal, and the whole shape of this is nice and square, going up to my longer legged hose there. So I'm much happier with this setup. So I think this could probably support itself, because there are obviously two hoses. This one goes up to the header tank, supporting it, but I just like to make it a little bit more stable, so I'm going to be putting a Munson bracket in here. For the Munson bracket fitting, I have cut the thread down to my required size, where I think everything looks good. There's not too much tension on the hose up there. This is nice and horizontal and well away from the wishbone now, which was an issue before. So that's all fine. So I've got a good thread length on the Munson bracket there, and I just see where it's fitting at its best angle, because sometimes it's not necessarily straight, it could be slightly off, etc. And now I can mark up my holes and fit it all together. Right, let's see if I can show you that. Unfortunately, I can't quite afford enough lighting, so hopefully you can see this. So I've got a nice 150mm legged angle there, 90 degrees, and no tension on that. It's really good. And no tension on any of this joint here. This is really nice. Got the correct 38mm in a diameter on here. This ain't going to leak. Got a nice sort of Michelor clips on there, and then we have the Munson bracket up here holding everything, so nothing's going to move and there's no tensions. So the only pipe I've got left to do here is this pipe up to the header tank. So let's fit that. Here we go. So the header tank's all connected now. That pipe takes a bit of an S-bend, but it doesn't seem to touch anything or rub anything, which is good. And with that, I think the water system is done, apart from the two heater hoses. So I got started with the heater hoses. I'm just using what I have, so I don't have to spend more money, hence the red hoses down here, these 90 elbows. Previously, I had used a 90 polished hose connector, which meant less joins, because it went straight out of here and did the 90 straight on, ready for a hose just to slide onto it. But we'll just use these for now. So my concern is just holding them away from any possible rubbing that the IVA inspector might not like. So I have got to form a bracket just to hold them kind of in this position whilst they go underneath. And of course I'm quite wary that the bottom side of this bobbin is a thread, so I need to just keep it away from that as well, as it curves underneath the car. So not a problem. I've got a few options. So I can make I guess a curved bracket that fixes under this nut and just curves round, just a sheet of metal that might hold it there. Then I can zip tie it to it, but I don't really want to have anything else interfering with engine mounts. I could use an M10 down here and have something sticking straight out that I can zip tie to, but I think I'm going to go with this one because I think that might be a bit tricky to undo with a spanner, do up with a spanner. So I'm going to go for this and just try and form some sort of bracket that drops down that holds these hoses around there, and we'll call that done. So there we go. I've roughed together this bracket here. So I've got a drop, angled drop just from this bolt connector, and then I can angle this plate here, and that will support the hoses, or push down on the hoses with some holes for some zip ties. So that's going to go in about like this, I guess. Let's see if I can do that with one hand. So I'm going to put that in there. That's going to just hold those hoses once they're zip tied in the correct position, well away from the brake lines. So let me just fit all that So there we go, it's all in place now. So I'm really pleased with that. It's quite a simple bracket, easily replaceable, easily adjustable at the bottom there if I want to change the angle. But this is all held well away from any pipes now, and you know, rigid enough. So just need to throw some Michelor clamps on all of these connections, and then continue with these two hoses underneath and the chassis, and put some brackets under there to support, which will be a lot simpler. Just about done for the day there. Yeah, so I have been at it for quite a few hours. It's a bit of a bind having to do all the brackets, etc. But this is my take on it anyway. Got just two brackets here. Got the bracket that supports the pipes there, and then further back that has to sort of suspend the pipes there so that it's not hitting the bell housing, and up they go to the heater, and probably another bracket off the top of the engine there. I'll show you in a sec. But that is it. Nicely out of the way of the brake pipe at the top, nicely out of the way of all the starter motor and everything. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Just got a few more clips to put on and we're done. This will be where the two pipes pop up. There's little more we can do now until we get to the heater, but they'll be coming in here and then going to right angles straight into the heater. So yeah, really pleased with that, and I'll probably be doing some sort of supporting bracket, I guess, straight out of one of these M10s, dead straight out, and just wrap it around the two pipes just to hold them there in this kind of position. It's also handy because you'll have some other wires from the wiring looms, and they'll be coming, want to be coming down here to go into several connectors. So to have a bracket coming out here just to show that you're supporting the wires, keeping them away from anything hot and sharp, really helps as well. So yeah, you'll see that once we've got the body on and we're putting the heater in. So now is the best time to talk about the heater and my slightly redesigned heater box. Here it is. Basically it's just a 2mm aluminium sheet, and I just took it down to local welders, and they just welded it together for £20. It's airtight because of course we can't draw air in from the engine bay side, which everything from this flange here back is in the engine bay. I've done away with holes on the side going into corrugated tubing to the passenger compartment. It's just too much faff, and someone else gave me the idea. So happy to pass credit to them. Thank you very much. Basically, just made this box slightly wider. I've actually gone for, let's have a look there, about 30, I guess. I've made the flange slightly too narrow on the sides. I'm not sure if I'm going to get an M5 in there or M6 and be able to do it up. I'll have to check the head size. So I'll be mostly putting some fixings in along the top and bottom. The flange is slightly larger on the top because it can hold some wires back, etc. Once it's all installed. So yeah, it's pretty basic. The old plan is still on my website, but like I said, you can just enlarge in this, and it saves you having to do extra holes, extra fittings and faff, because you don't really see this anyway, particularly if you put a sheet of mirrored polished stainless across the back of the engine anyway, like a lot of people do. So I'll just show you this fitted. It's been in a couple of times, and I've made the holes straight through from top to bottom, which will be holding this heater in. There's the holes that go straight through. I've fitted the front fitting on here. I can't remember what that's called, but that's all on there. Good idea to make the holes now, even if you're not going to use them all. I can just seal this off with a bit of masking tape or something, but it saves you drilling in later and any bits going on the inside. So this will be going, these two small ones will be going by a bit of corrugated flexi pipe up to the demister vents for the windscreen. And you know, if these were required in the future, they can maybe have a pipe on there going to something to keep your knees warm in the winter months. So I'll just show you that installed. So it's essentially going to fit like this, and you can see these slightly wider gaps now, more than enough to be drawing air in and then out of these vents. So really pleased with that. So you could probably make it slightly wider, but you do have to check, make sure you've got the strength in the body of the car. I've got the wires coming up here, all nicely protected. This hole is super well rounded off, so it's not going to cut into that. I could put a grommet in there if I felt like it. So that will be going back with the connector here once I've got it all sprayed black and everything. And then we have a bolt going through, so you need about 140. So I'm going to put a washer on there, and that drops through. So this is 150, and I do think it's about 10 mil too long, so I've got two 140s on order, so that it just comes out about that far. And that will hold the heater in place. So the only thing I've got to do now is just buzz two holes in here, and they are going to go be for these grommets. So I can then put these 90-degree fittings coming out, and they fit onto my heater hoses that are all ready to go. So so yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. Just buzz a couple of holes in there, quite large for these grommets, and just to aid pushing through, because it is all a bit happening when you install this. Of course, I'm going to have these 90s attached to the heater. You have to temporarily sort of straighten them out, and just to aid that, I've just chamfered the inside of the grommet a bit, and I'll be putting WD-40 around there. Also, good idea is I usually put a screwdriver, a large screwdriver, through to capture the ends of the holes, just to help me straighten it up, and to feed it through the grommets. And then once they're through a little bit, you can just start pulling them all through. Anyway, we'll get to that bit later when all the parts have arrived. Alright, so this is fairly simple but tedious. I would highly recommend slightly larger grommets, a lot more WD-40, and then you'll have no problem at all. But my grommets are a little bit too small, so I did have to tease the pipes through, and I definitely did not do enough WD-40, if any at all, really, on the grommets. Just put a little bit on the end of the pipes there. So just making sure my wire's in the correct place, and then we get it up, and I use some long screwdrivers poked through, just so that I can lift up those pipes into the correct sort of position. And as soon as they're kind of engaged, then most of the battle is over, and then you can just put a bit of pressure on the heater, keep on teasing the pipes through until you can get your fingers on them, and then they'll pull through just fine. And just here, my pipes are pretty much engaged, but I just had to use a thin pointer, bradawl or something, just to get the complete edge of the pipes into the sort of main part of the grommet, just poking through, and then we were safe to start working on the other one, and then push them both through. So as you can see, both pipes are engaged now. Honestly, if they were, just had a little bit more WD-40 on the inside, or I had chamfered better the inside of the grommets, or even just used 1 or 2 mil larger grommets, that would have been straight through. But I just had to try and force them through slightly smaller gap. So there we go, a little bit of minor wrestling there just to get the pipes through. A little bit difficult, but you know, WD-40'd up a little bit, and they can be pushed through the grommets fairly easily. I was on it for about 7 or 8 minutes, I guess. So we're all through here. Wires all tucked up nicely, coming out the side here and up through the top. Nice gaps for the intake, and then out here. So yeah, really pleased with all that. And obviously these right angled hoses now will meet up with the hoses coming out of the engine, and I may have to do a little short extension on here if they don't reach, but I think there is enough length for them to go straight in. So I'm happy with that, but we won't see this again until the body is on. Finally, the last thing to talk about in this video is fitting the exhaust. Now, your exhaust may come already welded up. That is the cats and the J-pipes already welded. If they're not already welded, then my previous video, in fact series 1, I think I walked through the whole process of lining them up and then getting a mobile welder around and tacking them, taking them out and onto the driveway or wherever, and then fully welding them and get them so they're absolutely perfect fit. However, in my case, I did pick them up already welded, so let me show you what that looks like. Alright, so the welded bits are this J-pipe welded against this flange here. I've already put a gasket in place, so I've got all the correct dimensions. So that's all good. And then, of course, the cat is welded to the exhaust. So the idea is this exhaust needs to be able to slide cleanly onto this J-pipe. That J-pipe needs to be vertically and horizontally absolutely straight coming out. So when you present your exhaust up to the body, it has to slide in through the hole, and it obviously just has to slide in straight. You have a little bit of movement, so you can adjust the gap between the body. You can just slide it up and down on that J-pipe a little bit, not too deep into the cat to affect that, but there is certainly, you know, a good amount of movement. So if you didn't get those welded, then you can just get a mobile welder to come round, and you would be pretty much doing what I'm doing first, and that is just to mount the brackets. So you'll be able to get a rough position of those brackets, because of course you'll be able to just hand hold that J-pipe, make sure it's coming straight out, and just get basically a straight line to where your exhaust will need to be. And then you can fit these brackets, and then you can get your mobile welder around whilst you hold these two bits in place. He can tack it, and then you can get it welded out in the driveway properly. But like I said, I've had these welded already, so I just need to fit the brackets. So I've got that inserted there. So I know my position of the brackets. I don't necessarily know where they have to go, but there isn't that much movement. And of course, the slot that the exhaust goes into is fairly long. So basically, as long as you fit the brackets in the right place along here, then you can't go too far wrong. So I've just got it supported by a trolley jack there, and I've got my masking tape. So this is the first mark I'm going to make, and that's just going to be, you know, where the bracket's going to be. And then what I can do is take all this exhaust off, and then I can drill a hole in the top of this bracket, because at the moment it's got no hole. I'll show you what it looks like. So it looks like this at the moment. So once I've marked that in the right place, I'm then going to drill a hole where I want it, because of course I do have a little bit of movement here. So I'm going to make sure I've got enough meat, if you like, around the hole. I'm going to make sure I'm getting it as central as I can in this chassis member here, and then I don't need to worry too much. As long as it's pretty good, the actual exhaust can slide and find a good home in this slot. I will try and give it as much movement as I can. So I might instead of having it tucked right back here, I might just move it out a little bit, just to give myself a bit more movement, so it's not too tight up against the body. Anyway, so I'm going to just mark that up, and then drill my holes. And you know, you could choose to probably best choose to weld these brackets. Then you don't have to worry about any bolts coming undone, or the thread's not holding. But my first 2 cars, I did do a tap and thread for M12, I think, and I've got to say it's rock solid, and it more than holds it well enough. So I'm going to get that all done. Putting the bolts in and the brackets in properly will then let me slide the exhaust in and show you what it's meant to be looking like. Obviously at the moment that's just hanging a bit low because I just need to move that up slightly to where it's meant to be, and then that gives you a good view of what kind of spacing you need, certainly on the passenger side. All right, so basically I did do the holes in the same place on each of these brackets, dead in the middle, so I've got plenty of room around the sides. So in actual fact I could have marked up my holes underneath straight away. But anyway, made the holes, and then I judged where I wanted this, whether I wanted it right out proud of the chassis or all the way back, but I opted for somewhere in the middle, just to have a little bit of flexibility. So let's see if all that fits now. Where is my hole? Out there. So pretty simple to drill and tap. It's only about 4mm, I think, box section there. So let's see if all this. So I've got a degree of flexibility there. Obviously these can move, a little bit left and right in case I haven't been accurate. I guess I could even take this slot here a little bit further in, but not too much, because the rubber bobbins need a bit of space to sit in. But obviously it can move out as well. So that's all good. So the idea is, once the body is on, I need to be able to install this just by sliding it on. So what I tend to do is aim for the whole of the body, and basically get the cat on, which is usually the hardest bit. Right, so that's just on, and then I line up my and there we go. So I don't know why I'm surprised, but there you go. So basically I've got the flexibility there to adjust to closer or further away from the body, and I think we're all good there. What am I doing now? So obviously I would use the proper lock nuts and everything, nylocks, when I'm all done, but that is successful. There we go. So both exhausts are on, no problem at all, as long as you've got the full range of drill bits. I don't know, shouldn't take you much more than an hour. So all good there, really pleased with how that's gone. Exhaust slide on really nicely in and out, so I shouldn't have any problem once the body is on. You'll notice this side, driver's side, is a lot less clearance here. You do need to make sure it's about 10mm or so, but whatever happens, if there's any bouncing around, make sure it's not going to start sort of bouncing against the frame or making a little tinging noise and stuff. Yeah, it doesn't actually show very well there, but I've got a good 8 or 9mm, but that's not going to bounce against the frame, so I'm all happy with that. And that's because it needs to be as far away from the brake servo as possible, and it's just a different, it's just slightly different on the driver's side where the manifold is and where it comes out. So that's all fine. Right, just to finish up, Anthony Hale at Crendon Replicas, hope I got that right, who does the power steering adapters there, has also got some crush ring gaskets to go in there. However, you can use what I've found the correct size finally on eBay. If you do a search for this, I found the correct gasket with a 63mm hole here, 2-hole. And that is awesome, saves you having to make your own or use the incorrect size, and obviously that goes and sandwiches in there. I'll be doing all that up tight with a bit of exhaust paste just to make sure there's absolutely no gaps. We don't want to be fading just on a bit of emissions again. That's the place to go. That's it for this video. Sorry it's taken so long, but no one on my back and some family commitments and the sun shines out means that I don't have to work quite so quickly on the car. However, I'm pleased the way it's going. What's happening next? The body's going on. I don't think there's anything now stopping us from putting the body on, so join me for that. Hopefully we don't have any camera shy people and I can film that happening. But we're going to drop it on, do all the body bolts up, and then we can get cracking with everything else and finally empty my lounge. I'll see you again.